Come on!
Bonnie, how do you keep getting back in?
I don't know nothing about how I do anything.
Before the video starts, about 96% of you guys are not subscribed. Subscribing and clicking that notification bell does help me out a lot in doing what I really want to do. Thank you guys so much for all the support. What is going on, guys? Rogue TCG here bringing you another Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG deck profile. This is going to be branded, Joe Branded's America. This is branded. This is not the Dogmatica build or the Dragoon build. I wanted to include non-engine hand traps in here as much as I could, so that's what I did. This is branded. Fusion Summon galore. We're not playing SP. Fairly budget. Granted everything. The whole main and extra is just about 200. So it's not within the price range of like you're going to 800 to 1000, but it's not as cheap as you're going to go and get a $60 deck. You know what I mean? But that's enough yapping. Time for the deck profile. First, we are playing a small Bestial suite. We are on one Bestial Lubellion, we are on one Bestial Magnemut, and we are on one Bestial Saronir. Lubellion and Saronir are the ones that are synergizing the most with our deck. Magnemut just being a way to search one of these, acting as just another hand trap functionally. This card can get a lot of cards like Albion and Albaz. Again, the Bestials. However, since the pool is fairly small for the Magnemut, this is a card that we definitely can side out. Same with the Lubellion and the Saronir if they don't perform. However, Saronir less so, because Saronir kind of is necessary a little bit. Next, our Despias. We are on triple Aluber on normal or special. It'll add a branded spell trap from deck to hand. And if a face-up fusion monster is destroyed by battle or card effect because of an opponent's card effect while this is in your grave, you can target effect monster your opponent controls, special summon it, and if you do, that monster's effect is negated until the end of the turn. And you get a special summon the sky. So pretty good. This is one of the better play starters. It searches the best card on the deck, branded fusion, so of course we're going to be playing it. One Despian Tragedy. If this card is sent to the grave or banished by a card effect, you can add one Despia monster from your deck to your hand, except for Tragedy. You can banish this card from your grave on its own effect at ignition speed to target a branded spell trap in your grave, set it to your field. And you can only use each effect. You can only use one effect per turn. Tragedy is very powerful. It basically lets you get your play starter either Aluber or Quem. And even in grave, it functions as a retribution in grave. Even when you're banishing it too, it does the exact same thing. So this card you use it as a key point of all your resource generation combos. This guy gets you so much advantage over the course of a turn or two. Lastly, for our Despias or honorary Despias, Guiding Quem the Virtuous. It's always a Dogmatic and always a Despia. If it's normal or special summoned, you can send an Albaz or a card that mentions him from your deck to your grave. And if a card leaves the extra deck, not just yours, your opponent's too, except during the damage step, you can target Albaz or a card that mentions it in your grave and special summon it. You can only use that once per turn, but that is a very, very powerful effect to just reborn anything that mentions Albaz. So we are going to try to abuse it as much as we can. Speaking of Albaz, here's 3 Albaz. That's Albaz the deck. We're running 3 Albaz. We want to see him as much as possible. We want to discard him for as many things as we can, so we just have extra copies of him just sitting in the grave. That's really what we want, is extra copies of Albaz in the grave. If we could have started the game with 2 of our Albaz's in grave and 1 in deck, that would have been fantastic. Anyway, now on to Albaz 2, Albion the Shrouded Dragon. Its name becomes Albaz while on field or in grave. If this card's in your hand or grave, you can send an Albaz or a branded spell trap from your hand or deck to the grave and apply the following effect based on where you sent the card. If you sent it from your hand, you get a special summon this card from either your hand or your grave. Or if you sent it from your deck, you can place this card on the bottom of your deck. And then if you placed it from your hand, you can place it from the bottom of the deck from either the grave or the hand. If you place Albion from the bottom of the deck from your hand, then you get to draw a card when it resolves. And you'd only use that once per turn. A little bit complicated. I see a lot of people confused about the Skies effect, so just thought I'd go over it, and then I got a little confused myself. Next, everyone knows this is my favorite, Cartesia the Virtuous. If you control an Albaz, or if it's in your grave, you can special summon this card. We are actually going to be using that effect more times than not. During the main phase, quick effect, you can fusion summon one level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. During the end phase, if a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard this turn, you can add this card from your graveyard back to your hand. You can only use each effect of Blazing Cartesia once per turn. Very, very powerful card, giving us access to polys on a quick effect speed. This is the main thing we're going to be bringing back with Quem the Virtuous from our graveyard. So very often we will just be leaving Cartesia in the grave in this deck just because we want to be able to bring it back from there with Quem. We are in 1 Springen's Kit. If you have a fusion monster that mentions Albaz on field or in grave, you can special summon it, and then on summon you can add a branded spell trap from your deck to your hand, and then you need to place a card from your hand to the bottom. Still a very powerful card. We are mostly playing this just because we are running Branded and High Spirit in order to be able to search the Quem and Cartesia and whatever. Just gives us a lot of searchability in the deck, so we are playing the 1 Springen's Kit because it is a beast. We also wanted to make sure, when I was building this deck, one of the main things is I wanted to make sure every single monster in this deck was a Branded and High Spirits target. Branded and High Spirits would never be dead in hand, and I did accomplish that, so I'm very happy about that. But I will be going over the Branded and High Spirits extra deck for that. And lastly, we are on 1 Tri-Brigade Mercurier to round out our branded monsters. When your opponent activates a monster effect, when you control a fusion monster that mentions Albaz as material, you can send this card from your hand or face the field of the grave to negate that effect. If this card is banished, you can add from your deck to your hand one Albaz or a monster that mentions it, except for itself. And you can only use each effect once per turn. Very, very powerful card. Again, it's negation, it's a hand trap. If we can search it, it's powerful. If it's engraved or we banish it, even better. Just an overall fantastic card. Now on to the best part of the branded pool, the spell traps. Triple branded fusion. Fusion summon a fusion monster mentioning Fallen of Albaz as material from your extra deck using 2 monsters from your hand or deck as hand deck or field as fusion material. You can't special summon monsters from the extra deck for fusion monsters the turn you activate this card effect. You can only activate once per turn. Very powerful card. This is the critical point of the deck. This card kind of has to resolve in order for this deck to really do anything. However, it can still do some stuff without it resolving. We are playing 1 Branded White. Fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material, including a dragon monster you control. You can also banish materials from your graveyard if you use Fallen of Albaz as fusion material from your hand field or by banishing itself from your graveyard. During the end phase, if this card is in the grave because it was sent there to activate the effect of Fallen of Albaz this turn, you can set this card. You can use each effect of Branded White once per turn. This is a free card that we can pitch off of Albaz. This functionally serves as another copy of Albion if we have an Albaz in grave. And Albion's very powerful. If you play this deck, you can just banish materials to fusion summon, so it kind of just cheats it out. So 1 Branded White, just because it's a searchable card, we're just playing it because we're also playing a high density of Albaz, and we do want it engraved for Cartesia anyway. We have ways to send it to grave via Guiding Quem and Albion, so we are just playing that 1 Branded White. Speaking of ways to send Albaz to grave, 2 Branded and High Spirits. Reveal a monster from your hand, send 1 level 8 fusion monster from your extra deck to the grave with the same name that has 2500 attack or defense, then you can apply this effect. Discard the revealed monster, and if you do add 1 Fallen of Albaz, or a monster that mentions it, and then during the end phase, if a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard this turn, you can add this card from your grave back to your hand. You can use each 1 effect per turn and only once per turn. So this card is very powerful. I'm just going to quickly go over, when we get to the extra deck, I'm going to go over what all the targets are for each of the extra deck cards, just so you can see that every monster in this deck will search another monster and does have an extra deck counterpart. We are on 1 Branded Red. Target a Despia or an Albaz in your grave, add it to your hand, and then fusion summon a level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing the fusion materials mentioned on it from your hand or field, but it can't attack directly at this turn. We are on 2 Branded Opening. Discard 1 card, take a Despia from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it in defense position. For the rest of the turn, you can't special monsters except for fusion monsters from your extra. If a fusion monster you control be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from your grave instead. Honestly, considering running 3 of this card, if you wanted to play, just like 41 cards, like, there you go, 41st card right there. Nice and saved. Next. This is a tech that I've been toying around with for the past little bit. It is Brightest Blazing Branded King. This is what I've been considering since the deck has kind of been straying away from like the Edge of Chain, running ad libitum sort of deck into more branded. So choose one fusion monster you control that mentions Albaz as material. Negate the effects of all other face-up cards currently on the field until the end of this turn. During the end phase, if a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard this turn, you can add this card from your graveyard to the hand. You only use one effect per turn and only once per turn. So this is a card that will continuously re-add itself from your grave back to your hand, and it just mass negates everything on the board. You can set it from your deck using Albion. So in situations where you'd be able to set branded and red, you can set this instead as an interaction piece in that sort of sense. So you're functionally choosing whether you want a Guardian Chimera or you want to just blanket negate everything. So this is a card that I like. I think people were clamoring about it a little bit when it was first spoiled in the OCG for us, but I haven't seen anyone play it, to be honest, and I'm a little confused as to why, because I believe this card, like, it reads pretty good. Maybe I might just be wrong, but that's why I'm including it and I'm giving it a chance in my list. Next, 1 Branded Retribution. When a spell trap or monster effect is activated, it includes an effect that special summons a monster. Return to the extra deck one face-up fusion monster you control, or 2 fusion monsters in your grave that mention Fallen of Albaz's material. And if you do, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. You can banish this card from your grave, trigger 1 branded spell trap in your grave, except for itself, add it to your hand. You can only use 1 branded retribution effect per turn and only once per turn. This recurs our cards. Its interaction, if we do want to set this with Albion, just like Branded King. This is just another piece of interaction. Especially if we know what our opponent's up to, we can choose to set this. That's why I really like Albion. In the second game, you can really customize what you're going to be setting off of it to really mess with your opponents to the best of your abilities. And then lastly, for Engine, we are on 1 Branded Lost. This is our target for Lubellion. It insulates all of our fusion summons. So let me read it real quick. The activation of your cards and effects that include an effect that fusion summons a fusion monster cannot be negated, and also your opponent can't activate cards or effects when a monster is fusion summoned this way. If you fusion summon a fusion monster, you can add 1 Fallen of Albaz or a monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand. You can only use that last effect of Branded Lost once per turn. So this card is crazy. It's pretty much always going to be replacing itself unless your opponent pops it, in which case it's going neutral since your opponent used a card to pop one of your cards. So this card is always going to go neutral or plus. Like, you play this card and you're just going to sit on it and win more. It basically prevents most types of interaction pieces around your fusion summons. Meaning, no Veilers, no Imperms, or anything like that on the summon. So, just a very powerful card and really one of our higher end pieces. A lot of the times we are actually going to be searching with this if we already have access to Branded Fusion via Luber and such. So it's not just a card Lubellion can grab. Almost every card in this deck can grab it. So, that's why we're only going to be playing that one. Now, onto non-engine. We are on a triple tactics talents. You could, of course, put a thrust in there. I know I don't have a thrust, and I'm not going to have access to a thrust for a while, so I'm not going to be putting this in because this is something I want to build myself. So we're on triple tack. We are on 1 Call by the Grave because we really don't want to get hand trapped. You could, of course, be on Ash Blossoms in main with Crossout. However, Ash Blossom, it cannot be a branded in high spirits target realistically. I don't believe there's any zombies in the extra 2500 attack or defense that this deck can realistically make, so we are not playing it. We are on 1 Foolish Burial. The primary send is either going to be an Albaz, an Albion, or the Despian Tragedy. Of course, we could send Lubellion or the Saronir to then send Lubellion. So there is quite a few targets that just do a lot with Foolish Burial. And then for our hand traps, we are on triple Veiler, 1 DD Crow, and triple Imperm. 7 hand traps total, not counting these, so technically like 9. We're playing the Veiler because it's a spellcaster. We're playing the DD Crow because it's a winged beast. Also, it's very good against Labyrinth, so keep that in mind when siding from now on. Labyrinth is probably going to be pretty good. And then Imperm because it's a non-typo one. Sorry for interrupting. I have an announcement. This Sunday, January 27th at 5 p.m. will be my first stream on YouTube, so please come by and say hi. I'll build any deck that viewers suggest in a deck building stream, so if you have a deck you want to see built, stop on by. That's all. Now back to the video. Now onto our extra. We are on 1 Predaplant Dragostapelia as a fusion boss monster. We are on Guardian Chimera for our branded in red. We are on 2 Mirror Jade, the Ice Blade Dragon. We are on 2 Lubellion, the Searing Dragon. We're on 2 Albion, the Branded Dragon. Oh, we'll be going over all their effects a little bit later. We're on 1 Grag Guganol, the Dusk Dragon. 1 Albion, the Sanctifier Dragon. 1 Rindbrum, the Striking Dragon. 1 Brigand, the Glory Dragon. 1 Masquerade, the Blazing Dragon. I'm getting tired of saying dragon. And 1 Elder Entity in Tess, as well as a Despian Lulu Woolilith. Now, onto our Branded High Spirits targets. We don't have any for Dragostapelia, unfortunately. None for Guardian Chimera, because the stat line doesn't line up. None for Mirror Jade, because we don't have any worms. For Lubellion, Albion, and the other Albion, so for these dragons, we have all the Bestials, we have Albaz, and we have Albion. Those are our dragon targets. For our spellcasters via Guganol, we have 1 Quem, 2 Cartesia, 3 Veiler. For our 1 Rindbrum, the Striking Dragon, which is a winged beast, we have a DD Crow, and we have a Tri-Brigade Mercurier. For our Brigand, the Glory Dragon, which is a normal beast, we have our 1 Spriggan's Kit. For our Elder Entity Intis, which is a fairy, and this is the reason we're playing it, is because we have Alubers and we have Despian Tragedy, which are both fairies. This is also a card if our opponent makes us send a card from the extra deck to the grave, we can just send it Intis and pop a card. If you do choose to play the Dogmatica stuff, this card does do a lot, so this is more in here just to prove a point. But that is all our extra deck cards. That's every one of our main deck cards, too, that I've went over. So now on to what the cards do. Predaplant Dragostapelia just needs a fusion in the dark, and it targets a card. Can change its level to 1, the card that you target, by putting a counter on it. And every card with a counter on it, its effects are negated. Guardian Chimera can pop up to 2 cards, drawing you up to 2 cards. Mirror Jade. This card is honestly very cuttable in this version of the deck, since you are only playing like the 1 branded in red. You're not playing the other Despia monster. You're not playing it. You're not playing any normal polys, so this is a very cuttable card. I just have it in here just for the corner branded in red case. We are on 2 Mirror Jade. On quick effect, you can send a card that mentions Albaz from your extra deck to the grave to banish a monster on the field, and then you can't use this effect the turn after you've used this effect already. And then if this card leaves the field because an opponent's card effect or card period, you can destroy all monsters your opponent controls during the end phase. Lubellion, use a Darken and Albaz. If it's fusion summon, discard a card, and then you can fusion summon using stuff from your field, grave, and banish by shuffling it back into your deck, and then this card can't attack the turn you fusion summon a card using its effect. 2 Albion, Fallen of Albaz and a Light. If this is fusion, you can fusion summon using stuff from your hand, field, and grave, and during the end phase, if it's sent to the grave this turn, you can add, if it's in the grave at the end of turn, you can set or add a branded spell trap from your deck to either your hand or your field. 1 Grad Guganol needs a Cartesia and a light or a dark. If it's fusion summon, you can send a level 6 higher dark or light from your deck or extra from to the grave. The monster is special summoned by opponent's activated monster effect. You can banish this card from your field or grave, special summon one Dogmatica monster from your deck, or one Despia monster from your extra. You can only use each effect of Graguganol once per turn. We're on one Albion the Sanctifier Dragon, Albaz plus a light spellcaster. So a little bit more specific, but we have, again, the Baylor, the Cartesia, the Quem. Those are all light spellcasters. Cannot be used as fusion material. Your opponent can't target this card with card effects. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can target 2 monsters in any grave, special summon both monsters to one to each field. If this card is in the grave, you can contribute 4 monsters, 2 in the extra monster zones, and 2 in the central main monster zones. And if you do, special summon this card. 1 Rinbrum, Fallen of Albaz, plus a Beast, Beast Warrior, or Wing Beast. When a Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link monster's effect is activated, quick effect, you negate that effect, and if you do, return a monster from the field to the hand. So very, very powerful card effect on that card. During your opponent's turn, while this card is in your grave, quick effect, you can target 1 Albaz in your grave, special summon either that monster or this card, and banish the other one. You can only use each of effective Rinbrum once per turn. 1 Bring the Glory Dragon needs a level 8 or higher monster, and Albaz can't be destroyed by battle when you control this fusion summon card. Your opponent can't target other monsters you control with monster effects. During the end phase, if this card is in the grave because it was sent there this turn, you can add from your deck to your hand, or special summon 1 Tri-Brigade monster or 1 Fallen of Albaz from your deck. So this card functionally is just a card that we can send to the grave via Cartesia and Graguganol to search our Mercurier. It just means our Mercurier is searchable. That's all. We also can just hard make it using Lubellion. So that's funny. Or we can use Albion the Shrouded Dragon too. One note is this deck can definitely play... This deck can definitely play Super Poly in the side to help make these cards. However, consider Albaz as just Super Poly on legs. Next, for non-Albaz fusions, 1 Masquerade the Blazing Dragon is a Despia and a light or a dark. When you control this fusion summon card, your opponent must pay 600 to activate cards or effects. If your opponent controls a Ritual Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link while this card is in your grave, quick effect, you can special summon this card, but banish it and it leaves the field. 1 Elder Entity Intis fusion requirement is not applicable because we're never going to be fusioning it. Once per turn, if this card is sent to the grave, you can target a card in the field and destroy it. That's it. That's the only reason we're playing it, and then High Spirit sends it to grave. And then lastly, our Despia Lulu Lilith for our Graguganol. Once per turn, if a card leaves the extra deck, except during the damage step, you can make all other monsters you control gain 500 attack permanently. Then you can negate the effects of 1 face-up card on the field until the end of this turn. During the end phase, if this card is in the grave because it was sent there this turn, you can special summon 1 light spellcaster monster from your hand or deck whose attack equals its own defense. You only use this effect of Despia and Lulu Lilith once per turn. For our side deck, we can choose to have Droll. Of course, we can put Jowgen the Spiritualist since we are playing Sanctifier Dragon, so that works very well with that. Another card that we could put in the extra deck is Alba Letinus the Abyss Dragon. And then Super Poly, for our Super Poly targets, we can have... We can always put, we can always put Mud Dragon in there. We can always put Starving Venom. And then we can have Garura. But that's just like different options for the deck, different ways you can choose to build it. Thank you guys so much for watching, if you guys still are, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye. Thank y'all so much for watching the video, it really means a lot. If you want to talk to other Yu-Gi-Oh players in a competitive manner, please feel free to check out my Discord. We are still growing, but we would love to have you, and we plan to do some events sometime soon. You'll also be able to do cool stuff like vote on future videos and topics of videos, so swing by sometime and check us out. I also started a Patreon, so that'll be linked in the description of my videos from now on. Donating would mean a lot, and would help in producing these videos. Right now, there's only one tier, being Tier 1 Femboy. This tier includes access to an exclusive Discord channel where you'll be able to talk amongst other femboys and have access to discussions with me as well as getting a shout out in every video following your patronage. Thank you so much for all your support.